Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 132 of the All Dolphins podcast on this Monday, November 20th, day after the Dolphins defeated the Las Vegas Raiders to move to 7-3, and only 4 days before the next game, the first ever Black Friday game on Amazon Prime. If you live in South Florida, it's going to be available on Channel 4, which bought the local rights. Did you know, Omar? I looked this up. I remembered for a fact one game that there was another Friday game for the Dolphins because of Hurricane Wilma in 2005. A Sunday game against the KC Chiefs was moved to Friday night. In Nick Saban's first year, Dolphins lost 30-20. And digging up some more research, that one I didn't remember off the top of my head, but the Dolphins also played a Friday game in their 1983 season finale, beat the Jets 34-14.
Interesting.
Yep. How about that? And I know you're dying to
How
find.
about that?
How about that? Thank you. Thank you, bad baby.
Uh, let's get to number 32 because I'm curious who is your selection.
You know exactly who it is.
Who is it? No, I don't.
You kind of prompt me towards him. Again, he's not the best number 32 in Dolphin history. By the way, for number 31 yesterday, yes, Brock Marion would have been a great choice. Yes, Norm Bulash from the 1970s, a big fullback, would have been also a good choice. 32. How about we'll go with a former first-round pick, Jason Allen, DB from Tennessee, who didn't really pan out with the Dolphins.
Yes, he didn't pan out because he was a safety being asked to play cornerback. Then he wasn't very good cornerback, and then got back there to play safety. Actually got the ball. You know, he pulled down a couple of interceptions during his career, but just wasn't a really good fit for the organization at the time. And that was one of those situations where Nick Saban wanted to select players that he was familiar with in the draft. And the bottom line was, I'm sorry to say it, but Jason Allen wasn't smart enough to play safety. It wasn't.
He wasn't. Okay.
Is that an agreement?
I'm not disagreeing with you.
All right.
Here's the thing. You made a good point that in his two drafts with the Dolphins, the first round pick under Nick Saban came from the SEC both times. It was Ronnie Brown in 2005, and it was Jason Allen 2006. And Ronnie Brown was a good player, but he was a second overall pick in a draft that included Aaron Rodgers, who wound up going like 24, I believe, to the Packers. So anyhow, again, today is Monday, November 20th. And it's a very, very short week, a very unique week for the Dolphins playing on Friday. Dolphins do not have a Thursday night game this year, so this basically is the equivalent of that. And Mike McDaniel spoke to the media on Monday, as he does the day after every game. And I guess the big takeaway there was the injury situation, starting with Devon Achane, where Mike McDaniel basically said it. Not an injury that's going to require surgery. He's day-to-day. Would not rule him out playing Friday. Would not rule him in playing Friday. Basically kind of left it up in the air. And also added, I completely agree with you. And added that the 5 players who missed the game because of injuries on Sunday against the Raiders would all be listed as questionable. That's Braxton Berrios, Chase Claypool, Durham Smythe, Robert Hunt, Robert Jones.
Look at you. You're just killing it over here. The one that surprised me was Durham Smythe. Because we all know how tough he is. But ultimately, if you think about where Mike McDaniels is and his thought process, it's about getting the guys who are important, healthy, and right for the elimination games, which are on deck probably in December. Now, this isn't an important stretch because if you can go 4-0 during this stretch, you can put yourself and have yourself looking nice and pretty. However, those elimination games begin in December when you hit up the Dallas Cowboys, the Baltimore Ravens, and the Buffalo Bills. And while it's not going to eliminate you from the playoffs, it's more than likely, unless you flatline like you did last year about this time, you're going to get into the postseason. But this is going to ultimately determine whether or not you have home field advantage for the majority of the playoffs, not necessarily the AFC championship round. And I think they got a good chance. Now, if you can go 4-0. Now, That 4-0 would get you to what,
11
11
and 3.
wins? Huh?
11 and 3.
Yeah. And that just means beating the Jets, taking care of business on Thursday. The Jets have a hot mess on offense, hot mess at quarterback. You really shouldn't have that much of a challenge with the Jets right now, considering they're pretty much circling the drain. All you got to lock down is Breece Hall, and voila, you should have a win, unless you turn the ball over like you did against the Los Angeles Raiders. And even
I'm sorry, the what Raiders?
Las Vegas Raiders. I'm sorry, they've had so many homes.
Yeah.
They were Los Angeles Raiders at one point. I remember that.
They were Oakland Raiders, Los Angeles Raiders, Oakland Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders. Yeah, there was a 30 for 30 on their years in LA with Ice Cube. I've said all along that the Jets defense is going to be problematic, but their offense is so dysfunctional. And that's not just the quarterback. Jets, by the way, are going to go with Tim Boyle as their new starting quarterback for this game instead of Zach Wilson. And Tim Boyle is a journeyman who's been around the NFL since 2018, has 3 career starts. He's 0-3. His career passer rating is like 52. So not to be mean, and besides that, their offensive line is a complete and utter mess. And if you think the Dolphins have had injury issues up front with their offensive line, with what's happened to Connor Williams and Teron Armstead missing games, now Robert Hunt, it's just as bad, probably worse with the Jets.
Forget about Isaiah Wynn.
Sorry, Isaiah Wynn. Well, the Jets have lost Dwayne Brown, their starting left tackle from the opener. They lost Elijah Vera Tucker, who's probably their best offensive lineman. Mekhi Becton sustained an ankle injury against Buffalo after returning to the lineup. Now he's probably a question mark, probably not going to play. And Billy Turner, who former Dolphin draft pick, who was helped out, got into the starting lineup. He's hurt. I don't think he played against Buffalo yesterday. He might not play. And they were down to basically their 27th and 28th offensive lineman for that game. It's just Breece Hall is a wonderful running back. He's got practically no shot behind an offensive line. Neither did Zach Wilson, even though he's just not a good quarterback, and neither will Tim Boyle.
Yeah, what I love about what the Dolphins have been able to do in recent weeks is they've been able to lock down and clamp down against the run. 36 rushing yards yesterday against the Raiders. Josh Jacobs is no slouch, so that was definitely something to be very impressed by. And they're moving up, drastically up. I believe they're ranked 9th against the run this season, and that's impressive. But I also want to point out one thing that I find very important and admirable. And I texted you this earlier this week because I don't think Dolphin fans really know this. Okay. Who is the second leading rusher in the NFL right now?
I was very surprised. You sent me that. I was like, what?
It's Raheem Mostert at 691 rushing yards. He's behind only Christian McCaffrey. And he's also a leader in touchdowns in 11. And I got to tell you, I don't think we give Raheem. I know Jalen Phillips pulled down game-sealing interceptions on a 2-interception performance. I know Jalen Phillips pulled down 2 sacks and an interception that really helped the Dolphins seal up that victory. I know Tyreek Hill did what Tyreek Hill usually does. But, man, we got to put some respect on Raheem Mostert's name and what he was able to accomplish. Huh?
Are you back on this?
No, I am. I'm still on it because, bro, we watched him limp all week in practice, and then he puts together the effort and the performance that he did, carrying a backfield that really was supposed to be in Devon Achane's hands. And
not only that, did you know this? Now it's my turn to throw a nugget at you. Did you know he played a season high 55 snaps against the Raiders?
No, I did not know that, but it's quite impressive, and that was out of necessity. And an injured player playing a season high 55 snaps, I if he practices this week, I'd be shocked, just because that 31-year-old body needs some time to rest and heal up. But I think the focus is on allowing him to play the entire season. And that definitely means you're going to have to use and utilize Jeff Wilson, which I thought heading into that game was a colossal mistake to not have him active. Now, You heard Mike McDaniel's justification on that decision. What was your take on it?
Well, here's what he said. Basically, he said historically he's going to get more. It was actually very interesting. Historically, you're going to get more in a game out of a fifth wide receiver, who was Robbie Chosen, instead of a third running back, which basically suggests that Mostert and Achane were 1 and 2 coming into yesterday. I don't think we can debate that Jeff Wilson would have ranked higher than Savon Ahmed. Now we're going to ask, then why wasn't Wilson active and Ahmed not active?
Special teams.
Special teams. Savon Ahmed played, it was 10 snaps on special teams. But having said that, this is where I would jump in and say Jeff Wilson Jr. should have been active and Eli Apple should have been inactive, considering he played 0 snaps. None on defense, none on special teams. Nick Needham did play 9 snaps on special teams. He played 1 snap on defense.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you. I think there are other players that you could have, Deshaun Hand. There are other ways that you could have created a roster spot for. I just felt like that was knowing where you were from an injury standpoint with Devon coming back from the knee injury, with Ahmed having a rib issue on the injury report all week with ribs, and with Raheem limping around all week. Like, what were you doing? And ultimately, it led to a miraculous performance from Raheem Mostert, and I'm proud of him. I think Dolphin fans should put some recognition on his name. Hell, even I would have inactivated Emmanuel Ogbah. Like, I just thought it was a bad decision, and I hope that they've learned their mistake from that game, because you cannot go into the game without at least 4 tailbacks, in my opinion.
Except that there's and as you're talking, I'm remembering. Except it's been done many times before. The one caveat is, even though he was not on the injury report, Mostert did. Our eyeballs told us there was something that didn't look quite right with him. HN was coming back. There was his first game back from the injury, and Ahmed was on the injury report. Then maybe in a case like this, you err on the side of caution. And again, the fact that they had so many DBs, I think they had 11 or 12 DBs. It's an awful lot, and you wind up with a guy who doesn't play it down. So, but anyway, so I think if I get the gist, you respect what Raheem did. I'm losing my voice here. You respect what Raheem did because you've only mentioned it 23 times. So, hat tip to Raheem. Okay, the other
and especially now that Devon is probably not going to be playing, you better have a great game plan, because you're going to. I think the elements of the game. We don't know how windy it is. We don't know what the weather's going to be like, and there is some concern about Tua in cold weather games. I'm a Tua fan, but I'm not naive to that reality. You're probably going to have to lean on that run game. And I am concerned about the run game because it has not looked as effective as it was looking earlier in the season. And the offense in general has not looked as effective in the last month. You could say it's the caliber opponent that they played, but then you could also say it's the turnovers and shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, and it also, I think there's something to be said for, and I'm looking at my phone here real quick. As I looked earlier at the weather forecast for East Rutherford, New Jersey, site of MetLife Stadium, actually was pretty good. So I don't think weather is going to be a major factor here. As I look here on Friday, cloudy, low of 37, high of 49. It's not terrible. Look, here's the thing. Again, I think we have to understand that what the Dolphins were doing through their first 6 games, through the Carolina game, offensively, with the numbers they were putting up, was just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're being realistic with ourselves, that was not something, they weren't going to be at that rate the entire. First of all, because there's more and more film on them, and teams adjust to the way they're defending them. And then, as I've said all along, especially actually both offense and passing game and running game, the Dolphins are a very intricate, timing-based offense that requires a lot of sharpness. And it's really, really, really tough to maintain that, A, throughout a game, B, throughout a season.
Mm-hmm.
And it may be that they're just...
But you also should be taking it to the next level. And I don't see that. I think you don't see that maybe because of the injuries that you have. When you don't have Durham Smythe, that takes you down just a notch, because I look at Durham Smythe and Alec Ingold. Those guys are the janitors. They clean up everything from protection and blocking. And then you look at the offensive line. The caliber of guards has gone down. Maybe you were at a level 8 and now you're at a level 6. That kind of handcuffs a little bit of what you could be playing, what you could be calling. And let's be honest about it. Tyreek Hill is battling something or a lot of things. It's not just Ferrari maintenance.
Dude,
Somehow,
except he did 10-144. I mean, I don't know how that's a factor.
yeah. So you will say, I will put you on trial, and you will say, hand to the Bible, Tyreek Hill is healthy.
No, I'm saying it's not affecting his performance. I mean, he's still the most dominant player on the field every single solitary time he plays. So that's not an issue. But again, if you look back, you mentioned the injuries. Sure, that plays a part in it, and that's part of the battle of sustaining what you've been able to do. And is it a coincidence that last year also that eventually the offense started fading a little bit after a really, really, really hot start? And it was, I mean, I know a lot of it, all of us were putting it on, well, they started playing really good defenses. Well, yeah, that was part of it. They also weren't executing at the same level.
I think this is more of an execution level than I think it is teams catching up to them, because you basically turn the ball over 3 times, and then you have that 4th down stop. That's 4 opportunities right there. And not you, but when Tua is on the field and they're driving down the field, they'll generally get themselves in scoring opportunities. As long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot with penalties and false starts and negative plays. But that hasn't been the case for the last month, or at least they've gotten off to a slow start in some of these games, and then they've had to get it into gear. Now, this is the first time that we saw them at home. Yeah, I think it was Carolina that they started out slow and then finally got their act together. This time, even though they put up a ton of yardage, I'm not going to say that the Dolphins got their act together. What they did is they got carried by the defense, which is something that's impressive and hopefully will continue to be consistent. And for the record, I expected their performance against the Raiders to skyrocket them into the top 10 in terms of defensive statistics. It just left them right there at 12. So obviously some of those other top defenses, they had some good defensive performances as well. But I think that this is a top 10 defense, if not a top 5 defense, the way that they're playing, as long as nobody gets injured. I think you've got a lot of the pieces, and you're seeing a lot of synergy being made. I'd love to see Xavier Howard play up to the level and talent that he has. I'd love to see the next level for these safeties. Not going to call any names; they're all good. But no, we're not going to call any names. They're all good. They're all very, very good. I'd love to see them make impactful plays and game-changing plays. And then I liked what I saw from Raekwon Davis, but I think he needs to get into the mix as well, because I'm sorry, you can't have Christian and Zach Sealer playing at that high level and volume of snaps that they're playing at right now at this pace. You got to get Raekwon in there for at least 20-something snaps.
He was in there for 20-something snaps yesterday.
I know. You got to continue to do it, and not just do it against the running teams. And I know he'll play a lot this week because it's a running team and they basically have nothing better to do other than run the football. But I think Raekwon should be in that regular rotation, getting more involved in the pass rushing standpoint. And I know it takes Christian or takes Zach off the field, but ultimately, if those players rest 5 more snaps, they'll play harder for 5 more snaps. You're not buying that theory?
Well, I'm buying the theory that I don't like necessarily the high number of snaps that Wilkins and Sealer are playing, but they're performing at a really high level. I mean,
they are.
Christian, that was in the 4th quarter where he chased down Hunter Renfrow from behind. I mean, that's
what Christian can do.
I know that. I'm saying, Omar, if we're saying we're concerned about the amount of work that he's getting, that didn't look like a guy who was overtasked, because are you
not concerned about the amount of work that he's getting?
to a certain degree, but again, the performance is there. So, and that's the whole thing with the defense. I know that some people were complaining that they weren't getting enough pressure on the quarterback. No, I know they got pressure.
Hold on, they weren't getting enough pressure against the Raiders?
Let me finish. They had the one breakdown where Deshaun Elliott got his feet tangled and fell while he was covering deep. Outside of that, the Raiders would have barely gotten 200 yards of offense. And correct. And then the Dolphins offense in the fourth quarter, when they needed to close the door, went 3 and out, and then 1 first down and then had to punt. That is not good enough. And this is where, to me, the running game issues come into play, where the Teron Armstead talked after the game about it, like it's up to us to get the coaches to trust in our ability to block and to perform in the running game. Or maybe it's up to Mike McDaniel to give him more of a chance. And somebody needs to tell him it's okay to run on 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1.
Not when I have that quarterback and that accuracy. Sorry. They haven't earned my confidence.
0 for 2 yesterday.
I know.
And the 3rd and 1 was a poor throw. And the 4th and 1 was blown up because River Craycraft let the DB get inside of him when Tua released the ball, so he was on Tyreek immediately. Yeah, I mean, that's no offense, but that Tua can be as accurate as you want. It's completely ridiculous to say you're not going to run on 3rd and 1 because you have an accurate quarterback. I'm sorry. That's again, too many more things have to happen for a pass play to work than a running play, where you can just, especially if you're a physical offense, out on a head, go straight forward. We're gonna block
with these guards.
Come on, man.
What? Come on, man. What?
So you're basically saying the Dolphins should give up on running in short yardage situations because they have backup guards in the lineup.
No, what I'm saying is I understand why Mike Daniel would rather pass in those situations because they have backup guards in the lineup.
But it's always been his MO. And that's, if I have one complaint with Mike McDaniel as a play caller, that's it. That's always been his MO. And the Dolphins, with all due respect, have sucked on 3rd and short and 4th and short for the past 2 years. And they throw it more than just about any team in the NFL when the last time I did my research on this. So, but again, this is where the Dolphins were able to take advantage of this kind of schedule last year. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be able to do the same this year with the Jets twice.
A hemorrhaging Jets team.
Bad. I mean, I saw a little bit of their game against Buffalo. They can't do a thing offensively. They cannot do a thing offensively. And their defense, and this reminds me, I'm old enough, for you Dolphin fans who go back to 2004, that defense actually wasn't bad at all, but the offense was so bad. This was the year Ricky bailed out on the team right before the start of training camp. They had a QB battle between A.J. Feely and Jay Fiedler. Jay Fiedler won the battle, got benched at halftime of the opener in a game they were losing 7-0. They wind up losing 17-7. They wind up making a QB change to A.J. Feely, go back to Jay Fiedler. Their running game's averaging 3.1 yards per carry. And eventually it just wore down that defense, which was actually good, to the point where all of a sudden it's like a dam that bursts open because you just can't hold it up that long.
Yeah, and we've seen that over the years in Dolphins. Don't just blame that on Jay Fiedler. We had that during the Chad Henne era. We had that during.
It wasn't Jay Fiedler, but it also wasn't. There was never a time where it was that bad. Where that 2004 Dolphin defense was good and became really became bad because it was always on the field, and they wound up 31st in the NFL in rushing defense. Why? Because they were always trailing in opposing teams and kept running the ball because they didn't have to throw it. So the yardage was skewed because of that. So, and that's what's happening with the Jets. Do you remember that? Do you remember the game in 2021, the Monday night game against the Saints, where half their team was out because of COVID, and Ian Book had to be the starting quarterback?
Yeah.
But they had more of their guys on defense, and Dolphins won 20-3 without really playing particularly well. And Nick Needham, superstar, had the pick six. This game against the Jets on Friday completely reminds me of that game.
Well, we haven't even seen it yet. Mr. Boyle could this could be his one shining moment, one moment to show that he's a NFL caliber. He's a Mike White, which is interesting because we actually have a 1st and 10 with Mike White coming down the pipeline. So hopefully you fans will who enjoy 1st and 10, even though I know you're lying to me because you didn't watch the Jeff Wilson 1st and 10, which is there. But we've got that coming down the pipeline this week. Mike, who interestingly enough said, the hardest thing in the NFL to do is to be the backup quarterback and get in there fresh without any work. Just throw him in there and any work and any warm-up, which I could totally understand his perspective, which is why that question is always from your perspective, what is the hardest thing to do? So
what is the hardest thing to do? From my perspective, the things I could say that I'm not going to say. Put up with you, Omar. That's the hardest thing I have to do. How's that?
Yeah.
How's that for an answer?
Trust people. Yeah.
Oh man. Wow, that hurts. And then I think that's pretty much the essence. We got a trailer for Hard Knocks.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote about it.
Have we decided whether or not we're going to do a Hard Knocks breakdown after the episodes?
I'm game if you're game.
I might be game. Tuesday, yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, there'll be a written recap on alldolphins.com, and here we go. And then we'll have
it'll be a super long episode. They not Hard Knocks wasn't. I did Joe Rose this morning, and the Amazon crew was in the studio to catch.
Oh, really?
Me and Joe this morning, sort of to preview the Friday night's game. So look at that. Are you
going to get some Hard Knocks FaceTime?
No, it's not Hard Knocks. It's Amazon Prime. But
got it.
It's still the NFL Films crew. Man, they're everywhere. And I wonder how big their crew is because, man, goodness gracious. But
and Austin Jackson revealed today that they were with them when the offensive linemen had their weekly dinner in a restaurant in Fort Lauderdale. So they
have a weekly dinner?
Offensive linemen?
Yeah.
That's nothing unusual.
I didn't know they had a weekly dinner. I did not know that. I knew back in like the Richie Incognito days they had a weekly dinner. But
is that all they had? I'm sorry.
they used to harass. Anyway, let's
stop. No. We can't go there.
Yeah, let's not go there. Offensive linemen always have the greatest bond, which is, they got to work as a cohesive unit. I don't think Austin Jackson gets enough praise for the job that he did against Max Crosby, but as I've said previously, he's having a Pro Bowl caliber season. Hopefully he continues to do that. And Dolphin fans give him the recognition, the respect, and the apology that he deserves.
And vote when the Pro Bowl voting opens up. Which
come on, Dolphin fans not gonna vote. That's just not what they do.
No, that's why Tua won that's not why Tua won the fan vote at quarterback last year. Dude, Dolphin fans will
hey. Tua will vote.
Well, Jackson Anon needs to get out there and vote for Austin Jackson.
Tua fans will vote. Dolphin fans, their history on voting for Pro Bowl and all those things are not very good.
You think Tuanon by itself carried Tua to the win?
Absolutely. Tuanon is the biggest force in.
It is. Trust me, I'm aware of force. Yes.
Tuanon, everybody should be scared of Tuanon. Tuanon is a major force in all of sports, rivaled only by Tebow, in my opinion.
Tebow mania.
So the power of Tuanon, you guys got to swing some of your votes to the other players. The guy protecting. Share the wealth. Guy protecting Tua's blind side. But let me get your take on this while we're at it, because I think you've seen it now. The ultra criticalness from Tua. The ultra, I'm letting my team down. Even though I had a 103 quarterback rating, those turnovers were on me. The lack of execution is on me. I have a higher standard, and I need to be performing up to my standard and my expectations.
What's the question?
Is he being too harsh on himself? Or is this necessary?
No, it's not necessary. I don't need a quarterback beating himself up.
Mike
It's
McDaniel also said that.
I certainly don't want a quarterback pointing fingers or absolving himself of all blame like Zach Wilson did last year when they lost to the Jets. Sorry, when they lost to the Patriots 10-3, and he was asked whether he felt bad for the defense or felt the need to apologize. I mean, at least say something. But no, I don't need to have Tua, because at some point it's almost like it almost becomes too much. It almost like becomes forced. Like, dude, if it's on you, go ahead and say it, no problem. Don't point fingers. You don't need to take on everything, because it's not
He
everything's
takes on everything.
I know, I understand that. When you asked me what I thought of it, and I said I don't need it.
Mike McDaniel spoke before Tua, and Mike McDaniel was saying he was concerned about Tua, especially coming out of the Kansas City Chiefs game, blaming himself, being down on himself, being too critical on himself. Thought he had the best week of practice. And then obviously the team performed like they did. Tua comes out, even double down on how, he felt like he failed his team. And
when we're
yesterday,
talking
yesterday. And
because we're talking strictly the turnovers, or we're talking offense in general?
Offense in general and the turnovers. Offense in general. And I was just like, now I kind of see what Mike McDaniel's a little bit worried about, the ultra critical Tua. I was like,
As long as it does, to me, it's irrelevant as long as it doesn't affect how he plays and if it makes him hesitant in what he does on the field. If it's just going to be Tua beating himself up for no reason after a game, especially a game they won, and it wasn't like he was brutal, because he wasn't. I mean, his performance there were some blotches on it, but it was overall a pretty solid performance. So that there's no need for him to like be that hard on himself.
It'll be interesting, something that we monitor, but obviously they don't want this season to tailspin out of positioning and control like it happened last season. And obviously they're at the exact same critical point where their season kind of went down the drain. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond. Obviously, I don't know what the line is on this Jets game, but I'm pretty sure it's 7.
Yep. Oh, you know what though? I think it actually might have gone up even more after the news of the quarterback change came down. I think I saw somewhere it might be up to 9.5 now.
Interesting, man. These Dolphins, boy, they're double-digit favorites every single week. It's a weird position to be in as somebody who covers this franchise, but this is where we are.
They're a good team now, so
yeah,
let's enjoy it.
Well, tomorrow we will have Antoine Staley, one of our former colleagues that cover the Dolphins, on Behind Enemy Lines. Always a good episode. Look forward to that. And then, as I told you, we got the Mike White 1st and 10 coming down the pipeline. There's already a Jeff Wilson 1st and 10 in the pipeline. Check it out. You guys say you love those things, so please watch them. And as you know, you can find all of the All Dolphins coverage, all of our coverage at alldolphins.com. We will be back tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day, because you know we love you. We're going to be doing an episode on Thanksgiving too.
Well, if we do one, it'll be in the morning.
All right, absolutely, before your turkey. Well, we thank you and we appreciate you. We will see you mañana.